before I say anything else, it's worth watching. The trailers make it look worse. I gave it an 8 out of 10, and if I watch it again sometime, maybe it'll even be a 9 or a 10. The final trailer cuts out bits of dialogue that make it seem like a quirky Reddit tier show, like Critical Role, but they cut out the context and took a few things from the 2-hour and 10-minute movie and put it into the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer, good. That was the only reason I was thinking about not giving this movie a try. The dialogue and the humor is more subtle throughout the movie. It's more like a good British comedy, and it's not always trying to make jokes, but it also doesn't get overly angsty or anything. If you're at all interested in a fantasy movie, this is worth watching. It's very well done as far as the special effects. There were also clever uses of magic that were interesting to see, and the outside bits looked like they were actually filmed outside. The actors were good. I especially liked the sorcerer. None of the characters were annoying, so that's good. The main character's story was pretty fleshed out. I will say some people complained about him being a bard and not really doing bard stuff very much. But you have to remember the Harpers, the thing in the movie, the order he was a part of, that's from 2nd edition, so they seem to be going off more of 2nd edition rules, earlier on. And in 2nd edition, thieves and bards are both rogues, although they are still able to inspire, before combat. And I think the focus is more on the other part of being more similar to a thief. Persuasion, jack of all trades, master of none. That's why he seemed more like a rogue, because, he was a rogue. Anyway, he's a harper, or he was, and when he's in prison giving his speech, telling them about his past, you get a flashback that's pretty well done, where they kind of show that there's more to it than what he's saying. And they do some good things with the other few flashbacks they have. It's a well-made story, and there's no deceptive editing. It's as if someone wrote a cohesive story with characters. A rare thing in Hollywood. Even the ending credits thing was well done. The part at the start of the credits, you know what I mean. Okay, I guess kind of a bit of spoilers here, not major, but Anyway, there's a paladin who feels a bit more like an NPC instead of really part of the party. Very straight and narrow paladin. So between his nature and his backstory, in which he loses a bit of his humanity, but he's not there for the whole thing like any high-level NPC. He was just there to help them with the quest, not to do it all for them. It wasn't just done for meta reasons. It makes sense within the universe, within the story. But like I was saying, the main party does feel a bit like players, and he feels like an overpowered NPC they meet who helps them with the quest. It does feel like a Dungeons & Dragons movie. Not just a generic fantasy movie with the name slapped on. But if you have no experience with Dungeons & Dragons, you'll enjoy it just fine. You don't need to have previous knowledge of the setting. The way the magic with the sorcerer worked was good. It made sense considering how things work with a sorcerer. They were creative with the use of the druid's powers and the main villains. The rogue and the red sorceress or wizard or whatever were also enjoyable. Very strong archetypes. I also like some of the characters, the more fantasy races, feeling like they're actually there, not just being CGI. They also had a good series of actions with the overweight dragon. It gave them a bit of a chance to get away because it wasn't very fast and couldn't really fly. I mean, kind of, but It also was so heavy it was moving these platforms over and making them interact with the environment to get away when it was trying to crawl up and get after them, right? Which made it seem like the dragon was actually interacting with the environment. Although I will say I don't know why the creator, the director, whoever it was, shot himself in the foot with the weird things he said before the movie came out, or the way he said it. I don't know if the interviewer twisted what he said or led him a certain way, but however he got there, it was strange, considering what he said didn't really happen in the movie. It didn't really seem to be emasculating the men. They just started at low points. The main character and the sorcerer, and had character arcs. They grew. The paladin was a male. He was powerful. The female barbarian was strong, but she wasn't invincible or perfect. He really anti-sold it. The movie. That and the trailer. At least the one I watched. They made it seem like something it's not. Something annoying. But it's not like that. So it's strange that it was presented as such. Usually when you talk up a movie or you cut up a trailer in a misleading way, it's to make it seem better, not worse. If you see old videos of people spazzing out about the director hating men, it's because of what he said in some interview. Although he did try saying it wasn't some weird progressive social justice man-hating thing. So he did try reassuring people when he realized how it sounded, but they weren't reassured. And so many of them were going to watch the movie anyway, and judge it for its quality rather than what the director said in an interview. So I wonder why they spazzed out in the first place. In some cases, over and over again, for months. But yes, it looks a bit weird now. I'd be interested in seeing a sequel or another Dungeons and Dragons movie by the same people, even without the same characters, a different story. But so many fantasy movies are not very good. And so many things associated with Dungeons and Dragons are also not very good. So when the rare fantasy movie does come out, even or especially with the name Dungeons and Dragons, you can see where the trepidation might come from. Oh yeah, and the only thing I can think of, if someone is still complaining about it being like too progressive or something, is the female barbarian being strong. Because she's a barbarian. Maybe certain people would say that's woke or something, but she's a barbarian. She should be strong. She can be stronger than a big orc or whatever because it's a fantasy world where stats matter more than the laws of physics. I don't know what there would really be to complain about. This movie even avoided going the most lowbrow thing possible. Like Kung Fu Panda or something. Earlier on, when she's like fighting this orc guy, they do a low shot with the camera and you think she's going to kick him in the, But no, she just breaks his knees instead. Which is, it's brutal, but it's not what you'd expect. There really is some honor among thieves and barbarians, but I guess she was also a thief. In the literal sense, I don't know if she multi-classed and took thief classes. I guess she could have, I don't know. Anyway,